Oh shit. Oh! All right, well, we're installing a heater kit in this 900 XP. I should have started this a little bit earlier, but basically what we did is we just pulled all the fenders, bumper, and lots of push pins and a few T40 screws. As we go, we'll clean this up and make the install a little bit easier. But basically, we're gonna pull the whole dash and everything. Don't worry, it's not really as scary as you think it is. It all comes apart pretty easy. And basically, we're going to install this kit right here. And then I got a foam kit that we're going to use to plug some holes up with. And then a lot of the places we're going to seal up. You'll see us do that eventually. We're going to seal up down these cracks and stuff. That way mud doesn't force its way back in there again. Because there's some bad cavities that we gotta fill. Oh, that's Bubbles. He's not helping very good. But yeah, there's a lot of holes here that you get a lot of cold air that comes back up underneath the dash if you don't seal them up. So a lot of those cracks and crevices and holes, we're going to use some landscaping foam. It's black. It's about the same color when it cures as the black plastic. So it's going to work out really nice. And then we also have a wiper kit that we'll install and put up there. We're just going to do it all at once. All right. Here we go. Okay, so we got the upper and lower dash out. And then we got the middle console out. Have to get some more light in here. I can see. The only thing you got to do is just unplug your cluster, your speedometer cluster, key switch, and the those are the wire leads that go to your 12-volt power outlets. And we'll keep going here, but got to get rid of all this stuff so it's easier to seal it back up and run the wires. And it's really easy to do, doesn't take that much extra time, and it just makes the install so much better. Just taking off a few of these, and that'll give us access to the windshield bracket that goes to the, and it'll get installed right here. And the easiest way to get to that is by getting rid of this plastic. Alright, we are stripping down, getting ready for the Baja here. And the next thing we'll do is we'll get rid of this and make sure we get that mounted before we put that back, because those are so hard to get to when you're installing the windshield. It's just best just to do it all at once. If you're going to do a heater, a wiper, windshield, electrical, winch, do it all at once. Alright, so this is so much easier to do right now, and I'm doing it first so I don't forget, because believe me, I have forgot. And it sucks when you forget to put the Alright, cool. The helper. Alright, so after getting that in, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to pre-drill our holes for the heater. And there's some little indentations already marked from the factory. Here, it's a little dirty, so it's hard to see them. But and then we're going to drill those holes. Main thing you want to do, though, is make sure that this wiring harness that goes up through here is not right behind that hole, or you're going to be pulling this whole floorboard and splicing some wires. So what we're going to do is we're going to reach up and we're going to feel up in behind there and make sure that these wires are not right behind that hole. Here we go. A little bit later. Get in there. There's the other one. Don't go too far, and just enough to get through the plastic and line up with the metal. There's a metal support behind it with a hole in it, so it'll line you right up. Alright. Now we're going to do our heater hoses while we have lots of room, and we're going to put them right here in just a minute. Alright, we've got a 7/8 inch hole saw. And that just happens to be the exact size of the outside diameter of the heater hose. And while everything's out, before you install everything, right over here, you make a couple of holes. And these holes here that you drilled, I line the first one up with that one. And then the second hose is just going to be right beside it. And I always try to stake back just a hair from this lip, that way it traps the hose, and if you ever want to remove this dust cover and everything, you're not fighting the hoses. So we'll drill this and then I'll show you what it looks like afterwards. Alright, there's the first one, and I lied, I moved over just a little bit more, but you just got to be careful not to hurt your wiring harness with the sharp edges of this bit. So yeah, while you're drilling, just don't go clear through into that. But you see this little lip there, that'll hold your radiator hose in, or heater hose, excuse me. And here we'll drill the other. Alright, so there's both the heater hoses, or the holes for the heater hose to route through. And it's nice because it'll contain them in there and keep them from moving around. And alright, so you open up your kit, this is what it's going to look like. I was into this one because I was just double checking and making sure that the diameter of my heater hose was the same size as my hole saw. So this is what you get, and we'll start taking it out of the box and showing you what's next. Alright. The next thing we're going to do after we get this opened up, we're going to get some of the goodies out of here. They always pack this stuff in here pretty good. In fact, almost too good. I can't even get the switch out of there. The wires, but they stuffed it down in there and I can't. There we go. Set that over there. So this is what I want to do next is, as this mounted in there like that, and this being the top, this plenum is held in there with these, well, we're going to put push pins in there. I don't know what they want you to do in the instructions, but I like to put push pins in here. So I pre-assemble this, and then we're going to drill these holes. Plastic is cold. I want to make sure you get it pushed all the way down, like so. And then I just use one of these unibits. And 5/16 is the size you want to go for the push pin. Alright. Switch to this side. get these nuts off here and leave the rubber washers on. And push them all the way back so that we're about ready to mount this thing in. Actually, what we're going to do is we're going to hook these hoses up first before we get any farther. It's so much easier to put the clamps on them right now than the hoses. So that's what we're going to do next. Just a little grease or oil or anything somewhat slick, and I always look and see what angle I run these clamps, because it makes a difference in getting them tight. So just make it easy. Make sure they're facing you. Get those suckers on there. A little grease goes a long ways. Or spray the blaster penetrating fluid. That stuff works awesome to slick these up and get them to where they go on with ease. Get the clamps ready. I believe they're an 8mm. And I'll grab that 8mm real quick. Make sure you get the clamps on above that little knurl on the aluminum pipe. That way you know you're above and clamped good. And you want to get these fairly snug. You don't want them leaking on you later, but too tight and you'll just break the worm drive on the clamp. So you know you're too tight when your worm drive breaks. Alright, here on out we're gonna just run these two hoses. As this comes down, we're going to kind of turn them just a little bit, so because there is a left and a right. I mean, if you go that way, it'll still work, but the way we've got everything drilled, I think it's going to work a lot easier if we twist them that way. Go in, so keep them lefty, righty. This is not as easy to do after the heater is already installed, because you don't have no wiggle room. As you get older, you need more wiggle room. You can't bend and twist when you're as young, or when you're older, I mean. Go ahead and poke this on. We'll get under the seat and we'll grab that up here in just a minute, but at least we're getting the majority of the hose out of our rod. Now for our second one. Like I say, by drilling those holes in this piece and leaving enough material to capture those hoses, it's just makes a nice, neat install. Makes you smile. Makes you smile when things fit good. And I got a few twists in this, so that now's the time to untwist stuff. Because you want things relaxed. You don't want to be bunched. You want to be relaxed. And I'm just stuffing those back there. We'll be able to deal with them later. Alright, so now that we got that, now just pull this down a little bit of time. Oh yeah, the dog is even getting in on the build. Go slow, be careful, inch it in. And we're about there. Now we'll get on the other side, put the nuts on it, tighten it up, adjust everything, get everything unbunched, and we'll be one step closer. All right, it's break time in between the heaters. It's potato soup time. It's Polaris Rangers and potato soup. Gotta stay strong on a install. Keep your energy up. Just fastening the heater core into the firewall with these 4 screws and a 11 millimeter socket or 7/16 socket. So anyway, I'm going in. So we got this mounted in. Now we just got to run our wires up, and there's a hole in between the firewall here, and that's where we're going to go through. When we get done, then we're going to use that foam I was talking about. But right now, we're just going to get up through here. Our slack out of here, not tangled around our feet. If you feel cold air coming up through the steering column, that's where the cold air is coming through, is this open exposed hole. It's not sealed off from Polaris, so that's what we're going to do, is run it through there, and then we're all done, and seal it up, and then you won't get that cold air coming through your steering column. It's just going to run underneath the cowling and over here. Gotta get the dog out of the way. Get rid of this seat here. Oh yeah.
So what's in that box?
Ooh. Sausage. Oh. Cream of mushroom soup. It goes good.
You're not going to starve to death. The only way I'd eat that stuff is starving.
Oh, look. Big gut. What is that? Creamy potato cheddar soup. We like potato soup, can you tell? Pots and pans, tarp, plastic bags. Oh, these Rangers got all kinds of cubby holes to stick stuff in, so you might as well stick some survival gear in there so it's always with you. Because you never know when hunger attacks. Yeah, I'm just going to fish these hoses through here now. Went down the tunnel. Through the tunnel. Are we live?
You're live.
Alright, well, now we're going to do this plenum and put our push pins in that we pre-drilled earlier. Get this in here. There we go. Sometimes it helps to lube your push pins. Get them in. Dry, sometimes it's a little hard. Okay, now that we got that in there, and this secured the push pins, basically you want to route your plugs that go to your lights in your drive mode. Right through the middle there. That way it gets them where they need to be, and then you want to make sure your power port wires are over here. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to hook our ducts up, get our foam on, and hook our ducts up under here, and of course on the other side. Okay, we're going to start putting on our ducties. Now I like to put a few little screws. These just to help hold them up. And then plus we're going to put zip ties on them. Yep, zip ties and screws. Okay, got that one. Now, next one. Alrighty. Alrighty. And then this one. Now we'll get some screws in those. Up there, maybe. Put that pretty tight. Okay, we're at the other side now. Okay, we got the zip ties on. Now just clean it up. Okay, now that the vents are all in, next stage is before we foam, we want to run any of the rest of the accessories we're going to do. This one we're going to do a wiper. So we got the wiring for the wiper. That's going to go down this side. And it's going to go, got it, ran right here, it's coming across. It's going to go through and then out right here. A little better take on it. And then run it across. Yeah, don't forget to run your washer hose. Because if you forget to do that, you're going to be really mad at yourself. Yeah, we're going to run it through and up through here. And then we're going to zip tie right here and just kind of tidy stuff up. So we got these two mounts here for the radiator support. And then we got our power studs here and ground and accessories. So we're going to run our washer hose. We're going to make sure we got enough room because we're going to drill a hole in that flashing or that valance. We're going to drill a hole right here in the valley for this hose. And then this wire, we're going to drill a hole in the valley right here for this wire for the pump. And then on that flashing, we're going to, probably about in the middle here, we're going to drill a hole that these wires will fit through. That way everything just pops up nice and neat where it's supposed to go. And we're going to use the plastic. Basically, it'll hold the wires and look nice. It's just too much to run under here and up and then back up to here. Not enough length. Anyway, you'll see how it'll come out later. I'm just getting ready to run this little conduit, I guess you could call it. You clean this pillar up really good. And then you just got sticky back. Remove that peel and stick. And anyway, it goes right there. I'm trying to pre-run our windshield washer tube, fluid tube, and our wiring for the wiper. It's going to go on this conduit and up and across, and I'm just trying to get it kind of all pre-run so that when I go to foam, all the wires are right and tight. All right. We drilled us a 3/4 inch hole. It's already pre-marked on the windshield, and we just sat the wiper up there. That way we can run the wires, pull the slack, and then that way we know where we need to foam. So everything is coming down to almost foam now. All right. Now once you get that tight, we can get our little grommet. Grommet that goes on there. Little rubber deal. Alright. Get this started. The wiper, you can set it up at the top, maybe just an inch underneath the hinge there. And then pop it down on there. Everything should work out right if you set it right, pretty much straight across there, and then tighten it down to probably maybe about 10 to 12 foot-pounds or a good hand tight. All right, we got our, whoa. I don't know how to run this thing. Okay, we got our little wires ran around through here, and this back onto the washer. Fluid can go out and spray out on the window, and then here's our wires, and here's our faceplate going on. Shaking up the foam.
Oh, I'm good at it.
We're installing this cab sealing kit and combining it, and yeah. And we're just starting with corners, and we're gonna try to get this little dude in there. We got that one, and we're gonna keep going here. All right, we got to get some foam up in this cavity here, and that's gonna seal up some stuff. But we need a backer for our foam, so we're gonna set this. I gotta remember how it goes. Yeah, it goes like this. Put that up in there, and that's gonna keep our foam from falling out. Do this here.
That's working.
Yeah, it's working good. Can you see that hole?
Yeah.
We're basically just foaming in above that piece of foam I just stuffed in there. And that piece of foam keeps that stuff from falling out. But we're sealing up all these little cracks and crevices and whatnot. Right here, all this stuff lets cool air in. Or cold air. I'm just going to do the same thing on the other side. If you don't put something in there, it just fills up with mud. This just keeps the mud out. Otherwise, this whole panel fills up with mud. It's 9,000 pounds. I'm also going to run a little bit. Whoa, across here, there's a bad spot right underneath here that needs to be filled.
Sounds like lava.
It is. Lava foam. I'm just getting in around the master cylinder a little bit. This is one of the most important spots right here. And I want to get that foamed up, because that is where all the cold air comes in. You want to, and actually, that's too big of a hole just to foam by itself. So we're going to have to put
Masking tape, maybe.
Oh yeah, masking tape would be good. But I have a chunk of foam that'll go in there. I think this is the piece of foam in there that's meant for this. And you just got to force it in there. And it'll go. What doesn't fit, we're going to foam. But that just keeps your liquid lava foam from running out. There. I think I'll run a little bead right along here too. This stuff expands to about not quite twice its original size, but it cases over and seals up so good. And I'm going to go on the inside and do that too. Yeah, all right, so this piece goes on next. I was thinking about putting a little foam on this before I put it in there, but it doesn't take much. You just want a little bit, because this is I think I can get some of it from the back side. Stick that up there. Smear it all around. Alright, I'll get some screws in that, and it'll be just peek there. Alright, I'll get some screws in that, and it'll be okay. We grabbed this upper valance, and that's the one that the washer bottle goes on. Anyway, so I've drilled the hole for the washer hose, for the wires, and I removed this from these spade ends. There's a little clip right there, and you got to come in from the top side as you're looking at them, and just as you shove it down on the end, it'll push in on this little tang, and it'll let you pull those out. Because basically, I don't want to drill a great big hole there. In order to get that through it, I want a small hole so it looks nice and neat. And but after we get the hole drilled and the wires through, we'll put that end back on. Alright, got that piece down in there now. Oh, start wiring up some stuff, and then that'll really go a long ways.
Big old hunk of stuff.
Is it pushing out a lot? Yeah, I better hurry and get those fenders on.
Close.
Alright, so we've got our wires ran up through here a little nicer. Headlight wire, keyed power, cable from the battery, and then I didn't have a black wire. All I had was this yellow wire. This is actually ground, but I didn't have a nice black wire to do that one. So, and anyway, there's our wires and everything. So basically, we've got ground, battery hot, keyed hot, and everything's running nice and neat. We got our radiator support back in. I tie into this bolt here because that's a really good ground. It's nice and short, easy to run. Got our washer pump hose hooked up, wires ran nice and neat into there. So we're just finishing up this front counter so we get our fenders on.
Go.
All right. Before we get over here and complete the end, we want to get our headlights plugged in. Make sure you feel them, you hear them click, and then tug on them. You don't want those falling back out. And with the bumper off, makes it a lot easier. This will go right straight in, because the hardest thing to get on is if you'll come over here and look. There's a little shroud around the regulator, and it's easier if you have the bumper off. You can go right straight in and not get hung up on that. But there we are. Boom, boom. I'm going to leave that loose because it's easier to put the fenders on if you can wiggle a little bit. Alright. Like I said, we don't want to fasten it yet because we still got to put our dash and stuff on. We want to be able to pull this out so we can get that dash back. And in case anything else, if we forgot something, we're not too far along to go backwards a little bit if we have to get this wiring if something doesn't work. All right. Okay. We got to do some cutting out here for these. So take a few minutes. All right, we got that one in. We got that one in. Now we're going to get some foamies. I'm going to put a little foam on that one, and then we're going to put this baby back in, and we'll cut some more holes. All right, foam's on. Now we're gonna do foam up here. All right, just getting these all this little stuff done ahead of time. Otherwise, you forget to do it. All right. Now next, actually.
Oh, your deals.
My dealies?
They're dealies. Oh, okay, I'm stopping. We're doing.
I can edit it later, so that's fine. We can say, jacked. Oh, I'm not strong enough. Oh, you're filming. You can't help me. You can't help me.
I'm not.
Help. Ow.
Oh, now I know why DIY. Look, I put an old floor in
Good thing
two
you
minutes.
Oh, yeah. Nice. We're close. Oh, now I'm hung up on the lever for the tilt. Now we made it. Now we can go. Super. Well, next thing is hook up our hoses to our vents, because otherwise you're gonna forget. There we go. You know, all this is possible because of Pat brought out some really good potato soup, gave us the energy to do this.
Bullshit.
Oh, potato soup.
Hiccups.
Whoa. That sucker took off before I was ready. Trying to get them tight. And then to make sure they stay tight, we're going to do some screws in them. I think I seen the bit in this too somewhere. Little dog's a lot of help.
Jesus.
Let's set these in here. Just a little insurance, those things don't pop off. Due to vibrations. Due to good vibrations. Next, we want to get our power points hooked up while we can still reach them good. Alright, on the back side of this dash, it's scribed, and you can follow the outline and cut out and then just snap these in. And then they just seal up to the back side of that foam. Pretty easy. Just flip it over, good flat surface, real sharp razor blade. Just start scribing around it a bunch of times and it'll eventually pop out. You got both of those to do, and then next there's the same vents, same exact ones that go in there. We're going to cut them out of this, and like the dash, these are scribed already. You just gotta trace that cut, and this is very soft plastic, so a good sharp razor blade and watch fingers. and you can just keep tracing around and eventually it just pops out. I'm still debating on whether to mount the controls. Here you see you're actually, in the instructions, they want you to cut out around here and then pop this control in. I'll get the plastic off of it here in a second. But I've actually got a shotgun mount there, and I'm really debating on whether using the shotgun mount to put the controls there or move the control panel down into the lower part of the dash, which that might work. Yeah, so there's this little panel that'll snap in here and cover up the lower heater ducts that come out for your feet. This is the lower part of the dash. I'm thinking about when I put that in there, snap, and then cutting it out to where the controls fit down in there. So that might be an option too, versus here. That's a nice spot for it though. But I liked being able to have a rifle or a shotgun mounted up the center too. I don't know, we'll see. Alright, this is our lower part of the dash. I just decided to grab this next, and we're going to cut this section of that storage box that sits there out, because our floor ducts that go down to your feet, they're going to be right about here, so you got to get rid of this piece so you can mount them in this lower flange down here. And then that little panel that we're going to mount the controls, it just snaps right in here and covers everything up. I think it's a good hidden place to put everything, so we'll get that cut off of there and then drill the holes out for the foot mounts. Alright, so we got that cut out. Now we're going to cut our 3-inch holes for our vents right there. Alright, we got our holes cut. They fit nice and tight, but we're not going to put them in yet. We're going to wait till after the dash is in, pull our hoses down, and then zip tie them and screw them to these, and then we'll pop them back up in there last thing. If you do it now, you can still get the ducts on and clamp them down because you can access it through this hole, but it's just easier if you wait. Get the holes cut out now anyway. Okay, so I've decided to mount this in this little panel here that goes down into the lower dash. But this little panel here is too flimsy for us to just cut a square hole out and pop this in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take both switches out. I'm going to cut off all of the little extrusions off of this panel here. Lay it up here. Pre-drill these holes out in this panel to match these two holes. And then I'm going to sandwich everything together with the switches. Because this is pretty thin, so I think it'll sandwich just fine. And it'll be stouter in the long run. And it'll make a really nice sturdy switch for down there. It'd be better than just cutting this out because the material here would be so thin on each side. I think it'd be too flimsy. You start cranking on this. So anyway, we got one shot at this. Otherwise, we got to buy another one. All right. See how this works out. We've drilled out our holes I think we need to make this fit, and we've cut everything off the back side so that it'll sit flat, and so the switches are what's going to hold that to that panel. I think pretty secure. All right, worked out pretty well. Everything's nice and tight and sandwiched up on there. I think it's better than anything else, so we'll keep going. Yeah. Heck yeah. Regret this, but I'm going to snap it in now because I think I still have plenty of access to get to the back side to plug it in and whatnot. But we're going to snap it in now and hope for the best. I think it'll work out. Got it all snapped in, and I think it'll be kind of nice and out of the way because putting that panel in there kind of ruins the purpose of that shelf, so might as well have some switches there because there's not much of a shelf left. So we'll go from there. Alright, this is kind of the hard part. Get this jockey box lined up. Yeah, yep, just like that. And then once I get this jockey box pulled in there, tightened up, it'll be just right. Alright, I'll get a few screws in here. Alright, I'll come to your side. Everything's looking pretty good. Hey, oh, Lily wants to go.
Lily, you want to go bye-bye? All right, well, thank you for everything.
Oh, God, thanks for the potato soup and the beer and the
All right.
hangout session, yeah.
See you Monday.
Alrighty. Getting everything lined up here. Go way back in here. Got it. Ooh, we gotta make sure we didn't pinch those wires down here. Don't want to get them pinched in behind the glove box. Nope, we didn't. Alright. Perfect. Now we got the 4 little screws for here. Okay, we just got to cut out pieces for the center dash. Oh, we can plug those wires in right now, though. No. Yeah. Back for a second. Plug that one in, no problem. I still got plenty of room to plug them in. Alright, just gotta adjust her a little bit. Put it back in there just a little. I think it's fine though. I was just cutting these out. Just a matter of following the lines. Arts and crafts. To cut on these things. We're almost through though. Yep. We made it. Nice. get her little. Now, if you notice, there is an up and a down, and it's basically user preference, but I like it to where when they're off, you flip them down. And that's the way we'll install these. There you go. All right, now. I almost forgot. I don't want to put that in there yet, because I want to poke holes in this for our windshield mount. So I gotta do that real quick. Yeah, I got this cherry hot from oh yeah, that's gonna work. You just got it hot and melting up through the bracket, so I know right where the holes are. Cherry hot again. See if I can find the other hole. Yeah. Found the other hole. And do that again. All right, as you can see, I melted holes up through from the bottom to line up our bracket. Now just use a step drill and make them just big enough for the torque screws. And then we're going to be putting our windshield bracket on. Now you want to be careful. You don't want to drill through your bracket. You're just making the plastic large enough for your screws to go through without any problem. But the metal bracket behind it is going to have threads in them, because your screws are going to cut their own threads down and below. So, and there is an up and a down on this, which on this one it's just like that. Okay, it's important you get them started straight, because they're going to cut the threads as if you don't start out straight, it won't be straight. Yeah. Alright. The way I like to adjust these is sometimes there's a little adjustment. You can slide it up and down, but I want these, usually they're a little too tight, so I want it as loose as possible. Okay, that is down tight and adjusted as loose as possible. I'm going to try it out here. So, whoops. Just got to pull in. Now, there. It's a little bit too tight, but it's going to loosen up a little bit as we go, because I'm going to loosen these screws back up and we'll get it fitting a little better. But it's going to be a nice feature to be able to use that part of it. Whoops. I have to lube these a little bit. Man, those are too stiff. Alright. Go. Alright, now everything's plugged in. Nothing to stop us from setting this in here. Just gotta. I can't do this holding the camera. Maybe, I don't know. Just takes a little nudge. You can get that up under there. Perfect. And 2 screws down here. All right. Now we're almost to the plumbing part. I guess we can make sure the fan and everything works. So, I don't know if we can see that, but let's see if everything works here. Yeah. Very cool. And I think our windshield wiper works. Very cool. It even has a park feature. I don't know if you see this, but we're pulling the ducts down here, and then we're going to hook our vents to them. I pull them down here, hook everything up, and then snap them back up in. Yeah, you'll be able to get these on there. Alright, and what's cool about these is they pop open and then they turn. So you can direct the air wherever you want to. Or shut them off. Pretty cool. And then of course, I like to use the screws, and I like to put them in right about there, because no matter how tight you tighten those zip ties, sometimes they fall off, so screw just ensures it won't fall off. Alright, so just gonna try to work these up in the hole. 3-inch holes. They're a little tight. I could have wallowed them out a little bit, but they'll go. I just gotta work at it. If not, I'll pull it back out and ream it out a little bit. Alright. They're in there. And yeah, pretty cool little outfits. All right, now we're gonna finish zip tying the hoses and everything and put that on. And we're gonna move back to plumbing. All right, that concludes that portion of the build. Anyway, the only thing left, whoa, that got dark. The only thing left is we need to cut out a little relief in the end of this for that. And so I did it this way just this time, just so I made sure that I still had material here left to hold the hoses, because it's nice to be able to, later on, sometimes you want to access this and you still want those hoses captured and held up there. But we're gonna mark and cut some little reliefs out for that up there. Okay, I've marked our tunnel cover, and I'm just going to use the same hole saw that we used to cut out for the hoses, and we're just going to put the drill bit right at the edge of it, just enough to hold it there, and then we'll do the same thing right there. So yeah, all right, so that's what it looks like, all nice, and don't see very much of those hoses. All right, on to the messy part with the coolant, and try not to spill it all over. All right, so what I do is I just start by running the inside one at a time, and it doesn't matter which way we hook these up. I pretty much keep them lined up, outside one, inside one, and anyway, I'm doing the inside one first. We pull it through, get all the kinks and twists out of it, and let it relax. And oh, and you're gonna want to disconnect this little bar and cable. It's a little tricky. It's easier with 2 people. because as you're sliding this pin out, you need to kind of keep moving this back and forth a little bit, and then that pin will come out, because there's a tension on this all the time up until a certain spot, and then the cable holds it, so it leaves a little tension on that pin. It's hard to get out. You'll get it, but it's easier with two people. One person to work the pin, the other person to, you know, move the bed up and down, and don't whack each other in the head. Anyway, next time. Okay, I've done a bunch of these, and what I like to do is this inside, well, it's not doing that. But anyway, the inside hose, like to run it up, and we're going to cut this right here, and we're going to keep this side of the hose, splice, and then hook into our new heater hose, and then the hose closest to us, that runs and goes directly. I just run it directly into the water pump, and this little section of hose here, I just discard it because that one will come out here. But I've also, and I may do it on this one because I kind of like the way it runs it a little better, and it pulls this hose down away from your oil check dipstick, is by running the hose underneath this bar on this side, and it pulls that down and it keeps it away from here and from rubbing on this hose. I've had a few cases where the clamps, if you don't install the clamps right, they're like a little knife. They'll just sit here and vibrate and cut your lower radiator hose in two. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to run this hose here underneath here, and we're going to cut and splice it into there. And then you want to keep in mind that the exhaust is right here, so you want to keep these hoses as far away from that as you can. And if you do that and keep everything nice and neat and no rub points, you're going to have a long life for your heater and no leaks. As these things vibrate, sticks, mud, it's just inevitable you're going to get a hole somewhere. But you want to put some little insurances in there so it doesn't happen. Okay, we're getting closer. So I've got this hose ran on that side where I want it. I've got this hose clamped, this little bypass hose. I've got this clamp loosened and up just a little bit, and I took the pliers and broke this hose loose from the water pump just a little bit, so it'll be easier to slide off, because you want to slide this off and then put this on real quick. I've already put my clamp on this hose. We're going to lube the end of this up, and then we're going to see how coordinated and fast we are to pull this off and shove this on, because we got the coolant stopped up here with this vice grip from coming this way, but you're going to have the coolant from the water pump and the motor coming that way. So just depends on how fast and coordinated you are to how much coolant you lose. So here we go. Alright, so we did good. I didn't lose much coolant. Got my clamp there, ready to clamp it down. And you see I left some slack in this. I mean, I have plenty of hose, so when I clamp that down, then we're gonna zip tie that down to the floorboard. That way we're a long ways from anything hot. Alright, so clamp that down, zip tie it down, then next we're gonna cut these two hoses and splice them together. Okay, we got the water pump side one clamped, zip tied, looks nice, long ways from the exhaust. And I got this one cut to length. Now all we gotta do is put our clamps on and get our splice in there. Just remember, lube everything up good. Makes it easier. And you have it. Especially if we zip tie this back a little bit, and because these are the ends I was talking about that can vibrate. If they're rubbing on this hose, they'll cut right through it. So we'll pull it back, push these down, and then ready to bleed the system and try it out. Okay, just finished zip tying and getting these hoses all tidied up. You can kind of see I strapped them to the other hoses really carefully, and got them running nice and neat. And go back up in under the tunnel there. So yeah, everything's ready to bleed now. Okay, to bleed this system, a 1/4 inch ratchet and a 1/4 inch 8mm short socket. It should suffice. And this is that's the bleeder screw. Sometimes I'll remove this heat shield. It just makes it easier to get in there. But it's a little forgiving. You know, it's all right. And all you want to do is basically you want to just loosen this just a touch. Just enough to let air escape. And then you want to start filling up your radiator. But first, and it makes a difference, you want to turn the key on, turn the heater on to heat, because that opens up the valves and everything inside the heater. And you also want it on low, because the heater for some reason doesn't activate this switch until that's on. So with that on, key on, now you can fill your radiator. And as you're filling, you're going to get air and fluid. You're getting fluid right now, but there's a lot of air still trapped in there. So I'm just gonna start filling up and until all the air bubbles come out. And we'll do this process several times throughout. But for right now, that open, that's all on, heater's on hot, and start filling this. Okay, I have filled up, topped off the radiator. Now I have got solid fluid coming here, so I shut that off. And now we're going to start it, and then we're going to let it warm up a bit. Okay, so we're getting, I stopped the engine, it's about 165 is the temperature, Fahrenheit. Anyway, open that back up again, and we're getting air out of here now. A lot more air than we were earlier. I just can't find a way to put this light. So yeah, so we just want to wait until we stop getting air, and then what we're going to do is we're going to check this again, make sure there's no pressure on this. There shouldn't be because we opened up the valve, but you don't want to get burned or scalded. So we open this back up, and sure enough, it dropped. It dropped. So I'm going to get this jug, and we're going to fill that up until we get solid liquid at the back again. Then we're going to shut it, fire it up, run it up to 180, 90 degrees, shut it off, do the same thing again. So now we should have some liquid. Yep, we got liquid running here again, and the air has quit. So I'm going to shut this. And the best way to do this is if you get an old radiator cap, and you just take this little check valve off here, this lower valve, and as long as it's got this upper seal intact, the best way to bleed these is with a modified radiator cap that will hold pressure in the system, but let the excess pressure go out and fill up this bottle. Because what you'll do is you'll build pressure, it'll fill this bottle up with coolant, and then just as soon as the system burps, it'll automatically just suck this right back down. It just works slicker than heck. I don't have an extra radiator cap right now where I do it, but yeah, if you just take this little check valve off of an old one, pull it clear out with your pliers, and use that to bleed with, that is the most awesome way to bleed this. But right now I don't have that, so we're doing it the old-fashioned kind of slow way. See, now as it gets warm, everything expands and wants to push out here, so I'm going to put the cap back on. Okay, we're 175. Or shut it back off and back on, because that turns your valve and everything back on, we're gonna go back here and we're gonna open up this valve again. Alright. Yeah, hear that air? That's what we're trying to get rid of. That's good. Alright, we're gonna go back up front. The pressure should be off of this. I'm gonna go slow just in case there's a little bit more there than I think there is. Yep. Okay, so now see that dropped way down, so we better get on it here. This is hard to do looking through the camera. Remember that valve is open, so we're pouring coolant out on the manifold a little bit, not much, a little bit. But that's going to force that air out of there. Yep, we got coolant coming out. I'm watching it really carefully. It doesn't look like there's any more air bubbles, so we're going to shut this. Fire it up again. Okay, engine finally came up to temperature. System was closed. Got heat coming out of the heater. Topped everything off. I even cracked open the bleeder valve just one more time, just to make sure all the air out, and it was. So, like I say, all you can do now is bring it up to temperature, let the fan cycle, and you know, it should run around. Fan should come on like at 204, 203 and shut off at 194. And you should have heat, and shut everything off, let it sit for a while, you know, keep an eye on your bottle for, you know, the next 30 miles or so, and there could still be an air bubble in there, but after about 30 miles of riding, you know, take another look at it. And but that should be a, you know, before you go ride, that should be a daily check, you know, check your oil, check your coolant level, look at your tires and wheels, walk around, make sure there's not any lug nuts loose, or, you know, just pre-inspection before you go saves you a lot of trouble later. But all right, we're just gonna button everything up, make sure and just walk around, finish putting any fasteners on that you're missing, just go over everything once more really good. And I'm gonna set the bumper back on and go for a little cruise with some heat, because it is cold out there today. Yeah. Where we came from. And that's where we're going. We are having fun. This is just a good way to get out of the house, go do something, and be comfortable. 22 miles after the heater install through the snow. It was awesome. Boy, I tell you what, that heater made all the difference in enjoying it and going, oh, okay, let's go back home. Yep, that was fun. Oh, the dogs are happy to see us.
our driver.